Well, let me ask you a question. Have you ever bought a gun at the pawn shop? Did you get what you expected? Well, I did. Well, sort of. Hi, George here, and welcome to Tales from Target Suite, where I'll share my perspective on guns and shooting, and we'll spend some time at the range. And every now and then we'll reconvene right out there in my shop or back at the farm in Louisiana, where I'll build some fun projects, and we'll share an adventure or two that'll make even a grown man smile. And yes, even though this didn't work out exactly like I thought it was going to, I am still smiling because I'm proud to have this old model Ruger single 6. And why is it an old model? Because for one, it has 3 screws and it has no transfer bar safety. And so when you let the hammer down, the firing pin would rest on a round if it was underneath the firing pin. And then if you whack on that hammer, then you're going to have an accidental detonation. And so that makes this the old model, but it sure does have a sweet trigger because of that. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But the old model was made, the original Ruger single 6 was made from 1953 until 1972 when they added the transfer bar safety. And this particular one I had to call Ruger to get the date, but it was manufactured in November, or at least it shipped out of the factory in November of 1968. And I'd been watching this guy at a pawn shop right across the street from our subdivision here in Houston for several months. And they had originally had a price tag of $400 on this guy, but it wasn't selling. And so I thought, because I had really wanted one and been looking at them on one of the online auction sites, but the prices had gone up. And I didn't want to pay $400 for this one because it had some pretty good cosmetic issues. But mechanically, it was really sound, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. In fact, let me give you a closer look right now at this guy, and then we'll talk about the pros and cons. And so there, I'll just go right to the cons, and you can see some pretty significant cosmetic problems here on the aluminum ejector rod housing. And there's also some cosmetic problems here, some corners that are dinged on the aluminum grip frame on both sides. But overall, it looks really, really nice. And one thing that I liked about it is that all of the screws are pristine. There are no boogered up screws on this revolver. All of the screws have either not been touched or they have been handled by somebody who knew what they were doing. And so I knew right away that probably inside here was going to be a decent revolver. But it is a single action, which means that you have to cock the hammer, and then the trigger has a single function, and that single function is to release the hammer. And so you can pull on the trigger all you want. I talked about this in one of my newbie videos, but the trigger has a single function. That's why it's called single action. To load it, you have to open the loading gate, go to the second loading notch on the hammer, and then you can load each cylinder one at a time. And we're going to talk more about this when we get around to shooting this guy in a week or so. But that is the old model Ruger single 6 with a 6.5-inch barrel. And it's just really, aside from, like I said, aside from the cosmetic issues, it's in great mechanical shape. And that means that the cylinder is really tight in rotation this way, and there is no in shake, and there's no movement front to back on the cylinder, so it's really tight. And so now we're not going to be able to know anything more about the function of the gun until we send some rounds downrange. And like I said, that's not going to happen for another week or so. But I wanted to give you guys an early look at the Ruger single 6 old model. And this particular one had a tag on it, at the pawn shop of 22 long rifle, and that's what I initially wanted, was a 22 long rifle. But I got to cleaning it, and when I took the cylinder out, got the gun all cleaned up, and I had some snap caps, and I'll show you right here, and I dropped those snap caps down into the cylinder, and lo and behold, man, they were really loose. And it didn't take me very long to figure out that I did not have a 22. I definitely had a 22 caliber Ruger single six. You can see that. That Ruger single six is 22 caliber, but it is not a 22 long rifle. This is a 22 Magnum cylinder in what is a convertible Ruger single six. In other words, it was originally sold with two cylinders, a 22 long rifle cylinder and a 22 Magnum cylinder. And unfortunately, the 22 long rifle cylinder is no longer with its original parent gun. And so I've got the 22 Magnum, and I'm actually pretty happy about that, as it turns out. And I've already picked up several boxes of 22 Magnum ammo, and we'll go bang bang here in, like I said, in a week or two. But it was made from 1953 to 1972, and this one I had to call Ruger to get the manufacturing date, but it shipped from the factory in November of 1968. And one good thing about this particular gun is they marked on the early convertible models, they marked the front of the cylinder with an electric etching pen, and they wrote down the last three digits of the serial number on the face of the cylinder. And so you can see that right here, and you can barely make it out, but it does have a 836, which is the last three digits of this gun. 6.5-inch barrel. And everything cleaned up really nice. The cylinders are all shiny and clean, and the bore was good and had no rust. But let's talk about that 22 Magnum versus 22 long rifle, because I'd learned something recently. I think I shared this on the channel on another video, but I'll share it with you guys here. There is a quite a big difference between the 22 long rifle and the 22 Magnum. And so I'm going to pop up here the SAMI spec for both of those cartridges. And you can see that the bore, which is the minor diameter of the rifling, that the bore of a 22 long rifle is 2.217 inches, and the bore of a 22 Magnum is 0.219. And so for the convertible model only, the barrel is sized for the 22 Magnum. And so this barrel is sized at 0.219, and it will shoot both long rifle and Magnums. And I don't know if the long rifle accuracy is less because of that, but maybe someday we'll get a cylinder and we'll find out. But right now we just got a 22 Magnum. And then if you look at the bullet size, the bullet diameter of the 22 Magnum versus the long rifle, even though the long rifle bore is smaller, the bullet diameter is larger. Isn't that interesting? And then of course the reason that those snap caps were really loose in the cylinder is because the 22 Magnum cartridge or case is substantially bigger than the 22 long rifle. And so, even though, I had always thought the 22 Magnum was just a longer 22 long rifle, but it's not anywhere near the case. Anyway, I can't wait to shoot this guy, and I'm sure hoping it shoots as well as it looks, or shoots as well as it seems to be mechanically sound, because it does have some cosmetic problems. But other than that, I think it's great. And by the way, I didn't quite pay half price for this guy, but it wasn't a whole lot more than that. And so I was pretty stoked about this. But I didn't get what I thought. And so you got to be careful about those pawn shop deals. Do your homework better than I did, and do your inspections better than I did if you're gonna deal with the pawn shop. but I sure appreciate them because they were more than fair with the final price. But one thing I wanted to do is to talk about the benefits of the old model versus the new model. Because yes, you can only carry 5 in the cylinder with the old model, but the trigger is really nice because it doesn't have to manage the transfer bar. It only has to release the hammer. So let's take a close look at that right here. And so when we cock this guy, it does have 4 clicks, and I'm going to put in a couple of snap caps here. So let's just do that. I'm going to do this kind of backhanded so you can see what's happening. I know this kind of looks awkward, but okay, now we can fire that. But now what I want to do is to take the Lyman trigger pull gauge, and let's look at what I believe is a factory trigger. I don't believe anyone has tinkered with this. And let's just see what we get. We're going to round up and call that 2 pounds. 2 pound trigger pull. Let's do it again. I think I'm going to do that one again. One pound will round up to 15 ounces. So that's a 2 pound trigger pull on the old model Ruger Single 6. Now, I don't know what how a new model compares, but that's just a really nice 2 pound trigger pull. Really nice trigger pull. And so I can't wait to get to the range, see how that guy works out, and let's hope it shoots. But I want to say thanks. Appreciate you guys watching short video here from the Grand Room. This is where Grandma and Grandpa do their stuff. Grandma does her quilts right over there. I do my gun stuff here when I'm in Houston. And but you can tell if you've seen some of my older videos that a lot of my stuff has been moved to the farm because I'm spending a lot of time there doing reloading and stuff. Anyway, I just want to say thanks, guys, for watching. And if you like what you see, I hope you'll subscribe and click on that like button. Share my videos if you have friends that like gun stuff and that may not know about me. And I want to thank all my patrons on patreon.com for supporting me. And if you guys or girls feel like that's something you'd like to do, there's a link in the video, and you can check me out on patreon.com. And if you'd like to support me there, that would be sweet. And so I'll see you guys and girls in the next video.